Welcome back to the channel. Today I will be looking at the notorious Pokemon Black and White anime. Okay, so it's no secret that the Black and White anime is generally considered the worst saga of the whole show. I think a great deal of that comes from a dumb main protagonist and what some would consider unlikable companions and an annoying rival. Personally, I don't like Trip. I do, however, like Iris and Silent and have really grown a bigger appreciation for them over time. I really don't think they deserve the dislike or the critique that they get. It's also not helped that this saga is sandwiched in between, in my opinion, the two best series of the whole show. Diamond and Pearl and XY, both amazing in their own right. Like, if we take Diamond and Pearl for example, Ash's last battle with Volkner is meaningful. Ash's flair for battle and sparky personality pushes Volkner to want to take back the gym. He sees Ash as a strong trainer and the potential for a good gym battle. Yes, Ash's flair is still present here, but he isn't a knowledgeable and strong trainer. Back in Diamond and Pearl, he had a strong, evolved and balanced team. Here, he has very mediocre Pokemon in a strange rotation. It's just very lost here. For this video, I purposely chose this two-parter because it's a prime example of what's wrong with this saga. And that is Ash. Well, this iteration of the character anyway. Before diving deeper, I know there's an argument to be made that the Nimbasa gym where Ash only bought Palpitoad is bad, and don't get me wrong, it is. But I think this one is much worse. For the most part, that episode is only bad due to Ash making an incredibly dumb decision to only bring one Pokemon to a gym battle. It was dumb, but that was it. The episode opens with a distressed kid shoving his way through Ash, Iris and Silent towards the Pokemon Center. It is pointed out to them that he and his team were in such bad shape because of the Virbank gym leader, who specialises in poison-type Pokemon, and that she's an incredibly formidable foe. This is good actually. It builds up suspense for this clearly powerful trainer and actually implements exposition well via the physical state of his knocked out Pokemon. Other trainers hype up this gym leader, claiming that she was able to wipe out their whole team with just one of her malevolent poison type Pokemon. This kind of hyped up powerful final gym leader would have been the perfect opponent and challenge for Ash to overcome, if the other 80 odd episodes up until this point had depicted him as a good and level-headed trainer. Surprise, surprise, they don't. I mean, if Ash had lost to her first time around and he learned to strategize because of it, then yeah, sure, I would definitely be more on board with it. Ash, being the incredible trainer that he is, decides it's more important to grab some dinner instead of forming a worthwhile strategy. Which I would imagine is truly relatable, but as far as interesting and fast-paced plot elements go, it's kind of poor. The gang enter what they think is a normal stadium, but turns out to be a dingy alleyway of a grunge-like club. Which is actually a pretty unique setting for the show and gives the anime a unique gritty edge. I also think a location like this fleshes the gym leaders out as characters more, rather than just a figurehead waiting for a challenge. Which is a plus I will give these games and the anime on the whole. They feel a lot more brought to life, and I think the stronger environments help with that a lot. The spectator is then introduced to the gym leader, Roxie, who admittedly is one of my favourite characters from the Pokemon games. She was first introduced in Black 2 and White 2 as the gym leader of Verbank City and is the second leader you face on your Pokemon journey. She is on stage playing loud but interesting music with her band, Roxie and the Toxics. Again, this is an interesting concept and would make strategic thought during battles all the more difficult. Which is a tool they could have introduced. If it was a plot point, Ash being unable to focus due to the loud music, then it could have been interesting and unique. It would be an organic way to somewhat explain his poor decision making. Roxie introduces her star player, Coughing, to the gang, which is an incredibly stupid scene as Ash used to knock out James's Coughing in the original series all the time. Like a fool, Ash gets out his Unova Pokedex and learns all about Coughing as though it was the first time he did that. Now, if they are insistent on doing this, then there is a much better way. Say Ash left his bag with Iris and Silent. Iris could ask Silent what it is, he could say Coughing, and then she could grab Ash's Pokedex from his bag and get the information. It tells a possible new audience what this is and doesn't affect the existing lore in any way. Okay, this is what really annoys me about this episode. Ash proudly shows off to Roxie that he has 7 badges and that after beating her, he will qualify for the Univer League. Now, had this come from a series where he was a less irritating version of himself, then it still would have been egotistical and annoying. But then again, that could just be my own personal reading of the scene. To me, it just seemed like he was full of himself and annoying. It's the fact that Roxie's rules are for him to use all 6 of his Pokemon while she only uses 3, giving him a massive advantage. In the past and the future, from the point of view of this episode, the final gym battle has meant something. As I mentioned earlier on, in Diamond and Pearl, Volkner had lost the urge to battle and was in a crippling depression, just handing out badges for free. Only after seeing Ash's burning passion and skill as a trainer, he found his spark, and as a result, Ash beat the strongest leader in Sinnoh. It was a good battle, and it meant something. Equally, during X and Y, Ash was struggling to master the bond phenomenon with Greninja, and as a result, lost the battle against Wulfric. Alone in the cold woods, Ash and Greninja grew together, mastered their bond, and were able to master this form as well, and as a result, beat the Snowbell City Gym. They used this final gym to coherently resolve a growing plot point, and as I mentioned before, it had meaning. Whereas this feels very confused with what they're trying to do here. The battle hasn't even started yet, and all I'm thinking is, Ash must be so weak if his only chance at victory is taking this tremendous advantage. Which he does. Roxie tries to justify it by basically saying it's a gym leader's job to see the strength of their opponent. Most of the time, yes, but in this scenario, no.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Gym leaders need to bring out the strength and strategy of their opponents, and this just is not the way to do it. The battle begins with Boldore versus Koffing. Not a great matchup, but I suppose Ash could have made a much worse choice. The battle was uninteresting and short. Ash's strategy of Sandstorm doesn't work out due to Koffing's Clear Smog and then is taken out with a super effective Gyro Ball. Ash's Flying type gets pretty easily taken down by Koffing too. Once again, the winning matchup of Poison, Clear Smog and Gyro Ball. 2 or 3 minutes into the fight and Roxie has already knocked out 2 members of his team without breaking a sweat. And yet, most annoyingly of all, Ash still has his big-headed ego, which becomes more toxic with every statement. I guess it could be seen as Ash is trying to stay positive despite the fact she is wiping the floor with him. I guess that thinking could work, but something just didn't connect here. Maybe the dialogue, it's just awkward to watch. His apparent desperation doesn't pan out too well with him sending out the Grass-type Leavanny, which is incredibly weak to Poison-type moves, and yet I'm not entirely convinced he's aware of this error himself. Despite all the odds, he is able to take out Koffing with a strange combination of String Shot and Energy Ball. I don't think the animation looked too bad with the fluid movement, I just found it to be a weird choice on the writer's part, especially as this is the companion to the games, so the established type matchups exist in both. Next up for Roxie is a powerful Scolipede that immediately poisons Leavanny, causing it to fall in pain. Ash's minor victory was short-lived as one Sludge Bomb took out the already dwindling Leavanny, pushing Roxie ahead. Weirdly, Ash is shocked by this. Why? It has a huge disadvantage, and it was poisoned. Why is Ash like this in Univer? My best guess would be is that this is meant to be a big reset to the series, and they were trying to parallel the original run with Decisions. If this was its own thing, disconnected from everything else, then fine, it works. I just find it hard to believe that Ash goes from the semi-finals of the Sinnoh League to this. For the first time in this entire two-parter, Ash makes a decent choice by sending out his Pignite, which actually has the type advantage due to it being a Fire-type starter. Especially against Scolipede, which is part Bug-type. Right, 2 things. First of all, I think there are some slight inconsistencies with Roxie's strength if a Flame Charge and Fire Pledge is enough to knock Scolipede out. I know Ash has the type advantage, but still. Secondly, she hands the Poison Pignite a Pecha Berry to heal its status condition. So, on top of Ash having an extra free Pokemon to fight with, Roxie is throwing him yet another bone? Okay, that's fine, it's not like this is a top-notch episode and plot anyway. I think the writers were trying to illustrate that Roxie is enjoying herself and wants it to continue for as long as possible. However, I read it differently. I see it in a more patronising sense, that she's sort of playing with him a little bit. I'd be interested to see what others think of Roxie's character in the anime. Roxie's final Pokemon is a Garbodor, and in all honesty, she's probably saving the strongest for last. It's a generic back and forth fight with Pignite getting smacked around a lot, ending with a powerful Hyper Beam from Garbodor. Ash's second good choice of the series was sending out Palpitoad and relying on its ground type moves. Let's just hope he utilises it to its strongest. Nope, Palpitoad is taken out with lots of powerful poison attacks, leaving Ash with his final Pokemon against Universe's undefeated gym leader. I mean, there are somewhat stakes now as it's coming down to the end, but everything leading up to this moment wasn't a fun or interesting watch. Again, the whole undefeated title would hold a lot more value if Ash was a stronger trainer here. Just saying. I don't like being negative, but had they written Ash better across this era, then it could have been one of the greatest gym battles ever done. The final matchup is Ash's Pikachu against Garbodor. Honestly, I would have more faith in this fight had Pikachu not been knocked out by a new trainer and his Snivy at the beginning of the series. I know Pikachu was injured and didn't have access to all of his moves, but it still bothers me a bit. In the end, Ash's victory only came down to Pikachu's static ability, paralysing Garbodor, which to me feels like a really lucky break, though a lot of this match feels like it was spoon-fed to Ash. The 6-on-3 matchup, the berry that heals poison, and now this. It almost feels like it would be more embarrassing if he had lost to Roxie. It just feels like so much plot convenience and awkward writing. It felt like they were trying to write something deep and interesting, but it just sort of fell apart. But trust me when I say, this victory feels in no way earned or deserved. My biggest peeve of all of this is that it just feels like wasted potential. I know the black and white anime on the whole feels like that too. I understand that it's meant to serve as a software reboot and as a gateway for new viewers, but they didn't have to make Ash this dense and stupid. He's a plank of wood here. As I said earlier on, Roxie is one of my favourite characters from the games. I find her backstory, personality and choice of venue really interesting. I will concede that I think her personality is pretty on form here, but she never leaves her venue. I think they should have developed her character and relationship with her father as seen in the games. They could have had this been a single episode consisting of a 3-on-3 fight and still had an episode or two fleshing out Roxie's character, and showing more of a relationship form with Ash. Even if Ash's character and level of strength was still the same, I do think that this would have been the better option overall. What do all of you think? Do you agree with me, or are you a fan of this two-parter? Which is completely fine, I'm happy you're able to find some enjoyment from it. Either way, I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If I could please ask you to hit that like button and subscribe, it will help the channel continue to grow. Please stay close as I try to post new content as often as possible.